Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm so excited for season 2 and the great guests you're going to hear from, their struggles, how they overcame their struggles, their triumphs. Through personal and business life, I think they're tied together, and we're going to share great stories about that. This show isn't just about me. It takes a lot of good people working with me. Among them is my partner, H7 Network, and Clay Hicks. Building relationships, building community is the mission of H7 Network. They want to create a network of champions where everybody wins. Find out more at h7network.com. And we hope to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you through our show. Enjoy the show. We'll talk to you on the other side. Welcome, everyone, to another awesome episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And as you all know, I have a servant that comes on that's in business, that's really out there to help people and help them grow and bring value. And Coach Megan is my guest today, and she's going to talk about careers, which I love because that's the breadbone of our personality, of what we are. What's our career going to be? Hey, Coach Megan, welcome to the call, or show, actually.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
I guess I could take calls. I was going to do that, but we won't do that today. Let's start in the beginning. Why are you working on careers? Why was that your passion?
Yeah, so I've always had an overarching theme in my career, whether it was working in HR, recruitment, working with students, just helping people understand themselves, their strengths. And then that kind of led into career coaching. And essentially, career coaching is I help people pivot their career, understand their personal brand, understand how to talk about their top strengths, and really highlight that not only on their resume, but within conversations. I've also worked with a lot of students, helping them to get internships and then therefore getting their first job, a lot of career pivoters. And it's just so rewarding. I have a lot of recurring clients, a lot of referrals, and I just love helping people figure out what to do and how to pursue their career.
I love that. How important are resumes?
So a recruiter spends 6 to 7 seconds reviewing a resume. That is 100% true. I've been a recruiter. So it needs to be very clean. It needs to be crystal clear why you're applying for the role. And it also, as a career pivoter, if that's what you're doing, have those transferable skills, have the keywords from the job description. You can run your resume through a free software called jobscan.co. That's one data point, but it is something to cross-reference to understand those keywords. I would say the resume is definitely a key element, as well as a LinkedIn profile.
That's interesting because we talked about that before, LinkedIn, how important that is now. You know, I'm 61. I think when I was 20, there was probably not a LinkedIn. So it's a great tool to use. And are you mentoring these resumes as well? You'll go over them and too short, too long, take this out type of thing?
Definitely. So it really depends on the existing version that the client provides to me. And essentially, what I'll do I actually find it really interesting. If I get on a call with a client and I say, hey, don't look at your resume, just talk me through your experience. And what they say verbally sometimes does not translate to the resume. And that's where I can come in as an expert. I will be taking notes and then I'll wordsmith it. I'll make sure there's quantification where applicable. But essentially, a lot of the time, especially for career pivoters, sometimes their resume doesn't reflect their expertise, and that's where I come in.
And that's interesting. You say I can't say that, career pivoter. So that's somebody that has a job and says, you know what, I want to switch to whole different industry, a whole different job. That's what a pivoter is? Explain that.
Yes. So that's essentially what it is. I think in today's market, the average tenure that people are at jobs is 3 to 4 years, especially within tech. And so sometimes, there's a different angle that someone could go down, using transferable skills, or if they just kind of fall into a different field. So I would say that it really just depends on what that individual is passionate about. Where your interests meet your strengths, that's your passion. And hopefully you're working in that every day.
Yeah. And that's awesome, because pivoting is probably a good thing, especially if you're not happy where you're at, right?
Yes, exactly.
Now, how do people find you?
So right now I started on Upwork. And so I started on Upwork a few years ago. And from there, I've been building out my profile. I also started building it out with prior students that I've worked with. So all of my reviews, I try to get reviews monthly to keep it up to date. So people do find me on Upwork. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, just kind of back to what we previously discussed as far as LinkedIn being this huge platform to just interact and network. That's actually how we connected as well.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
so I would say LinkedIn, Upwork, and then I've also gotten a lot of referrals. So a lot of people that have worked with me, they're either recurring clients or they're also referring me to other people within their network. And then I'm also employed with a few organizations that provide me those students,
Mhm.
provide me those clients directly.
And so somebody could reach out to you and say, "Hey, Coach Megan, I've got a high school student, senior, is not going to college, but wants to start a career right away." You'd start work with them.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome.
And I work with people, right out of high school, right out of college, mid-level career executives, like across the spectrum. I've worked with everyone, every industry, you name it, I've done it.
I like that, and I'm assuming you work with people coming out of college too. Anybody that's transitioning into a career, that's where your sweet spot is for all this.
Exactly.
So we talked previously a couple weeks ago. You told me a great story. I don't know if you remember that story. Do you remember that story?
About how I'm kind of doing this entrepreneurship and all of these jobs.
Well, let's start with
That
that.
story.
There's another, and the story of one of your clients too that you told me that you helped her with her interview. She couldn't get jobs. Let's start with that because it's a incredible story. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, yeah. Can you remind me what those
So
details
she
were
was trying to
about
get
this?
an interview. I believe she had a disability,
Oh,
a learning disability, if I'm correct. That story. I mean, it's just so powerful.
yeah, yeah. So I was working with a client who had a learning disability and felt really struggling, not feeling like that person was able to be heard or seen or valued. And so, through conversations I had with them, through helping them understand their strengths, through making sure they felt confident in their resume, all of that, this person was able to work with me and get the job that they wanted. It obviously took a lot of time and energy, but I do think that this is definitely something that it really shows that anyone can do this, especially with the right mindset.
Yeah, and the other part of the story, what did you teach her? What did she do different in this interview where she got the job at the zoo that the other interviews she didn't get the job with you? You taught her how to talk about herself, right?
Yeah. And when speaking about yourself, the first question that you're going to get in any interview is tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And yes, you can have the elevator pitch, as they say, but it really needs to be customized. Why are you the best person for this role? What are your unique strengths and value add? And looking at the job description to what your background and expertise is, you need to be able to say that in very concisely, very confidently, and making sure that you come across as when that recruiter gets off the call, Megan is the person I want to hire because she is the best person for this job.
So they're hiring you. They're not hiring your experience. I mean, part of it's experience, part of it's LinkedIn, part of it's resume, but really it's Steve Ramona. Who is Steve Ramona? Correct.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And that's why the personal brand is so important, right? So how do you brand yourself and how is that viewed by other people who come across, whether it's your LinkedIn profile, your personal website? Is it clear? How are you marketing yourself and how does that come across to whatever target audience that you're trying to attract?
What a great tip, Coach Megan, because businesses are brand themselves all the time. Entrepreneurs, Coca-Cola, whoever that company is. But you're saying you, as the potential hiree, brand yourself to those companies that you're interviewing with.
Yes,
And these are skill sets that people obviously don't really have that you teach.
exactly. Yes.
Hired. You're hired, Coach Megan. No, I wish I had you 40 years ago when I was trying to get a job. I know it's not simple. I know it's a lot of work, but I like that because what do people say? They buy because of you or through you because they want to know you. They're just not going to buy Progressive Insurance because because Flo's on TV all the time. Who's the person selling me the Progressive Insurance? So that's the same way with an interview.
Exactly.
Wow,
Yes.
this is eye opening for me. Um, and let's delve. Well, let me ask this question. So, a parent comes, has a child, get out of high school. they want to college is not for them. They want to get into a career. How do you start the onboarding? How do you start working with that student and the parents?
Yeah, so I would probably want to get on a call with that person
Okay.
and ask them, "Hey, what were your favorite subjects in school? What areas did you enjoy and you were also good at?" Because you can be good at something and not enjoy it and vice versa, and you need to find that intersection. I
Yeah.
would also say, what are your top strengths? Ask 5 of your friends, ask your family, what would they say your top strengths are? And then from there, what are the trends and themes in that? And of course, you can take, those free online assessments, like similar to the MBTI, right? There's a ton of free online assessments that you can take. So I think it needs to be one, do they know what they want to do? Do they have what I would call career clarity, right? And if so, then we can just kind of go in and update the resume, make sure they have a LinkedIn profile. Maybe they can join certain like Slack groups, Discord groups, things like that. But essentially, the first step is understanding, do they have a clear direction in the career they want to go? And if so, great, we can start working right away. If not, then I would take the steps that I just mentioned.
So this might be a tough question, but not using Coach Megan and using Coach Megan, what is the higher percentage of getting a job, having all this information that you've given them for somebody?
I think when you work with me, and you can also find this on my Upwork reviews,
Hmm.
that people, when they meet with me, they get kind of like insider knowledge because I've been a recruiter, because I've worked in HR, because I'm very familiar with all fields. I've been in Silicon Valley for over 10 years, so I'm very familiar with, tech here, but also just the landscape here, right? Like people come here because there's so many jobs and things are remote. I'm up to date in current trends. I'm very active in my own HR network, my own career coach groups, right? So people will come to me because I have this insider knowledge that they won't get by just Googling something.
That's great. That's the value add that you bring, which I love, because education's the key for anything, and that's what you're really doing, and mentoring. What industries do you work in for careers? Is there some that you don't, some that you do, or you do all?
So I specialize in software engineers just
Okay.
because I've worked for a software engineering college in San Francisco for a few years. And two of the companies I'm currently employed with also focus on helping people that are completing a boot camp centered around software engineers. So I definitely specialize in that. Of course, I'm very versatile when it comes to HR type positions or administrative EA, just because that's also been part of my personal background. And then I also have a master's in education, so working with a lot of educators. But as I mentioned previously, like you name the field, I've done it, from like construction to patent lawyer. Last week, I helped a band teacher. So, like, you name the field and industry, I have absolutely done it.
You got blank canvas, which I love.
Yes.
Somebody who wants to be, well, she was a zoologist, the story you told me. And I don't know many zoologists myself, so but not like you have 1,000 zoologists reaching out to you, hey, I want to change
Right.
my career. That's good to hear because it sounds like it crosses over to any industry what you teach. It doesn't matter what your career you're going for.
Exactly, and it does help to widen my target audience,
Hmm.
but with that said, I would say that it does take more research because, yes, I've had a lot of jobs and I've had a lot of career jobs, but I haven't been, a construction worker, I haven't been a nurse. So when I get those clients, I do a deeper dive into their background, into making sure the terminology on the resume is accurate, it's correct. Of course, I correspond with them. I'm in very close communication with all of my
Hmm.
clients and sending them follow-up questions, asking for quantification, all of that. But I would say, like, software engineers and other fields that I'm more familiar with, very quick, very easy. The other fields just require more research just so that I do come across as that subject matter expert, even though I've
Yeah,
never done that job.
yeah, that's great. So, what's one thing that most people make the mistake they make when they do an interview that you can share with my audience that may help them in their next interview if they can't get a hold of you?
Yeah, so what I would say is customize. And what I mean by that,
Mm.
although everyone knows to research, do a deep dive, right? So look at the LinkedIn profile of the company, look at employees, how long have they worked there? Don't have these generic questions like, tell me about your culture. That's like I Googled top 50 interview questions, right? Be very intentional. So I did some research on your organization. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do to support employee growth and development? Not, do you have management programs? So I think it's being really thoughtful, really customized in your approach. And I think so if the first conversation you have with a recruiter and the recruiter's name is Megan and Megan told you about XYZ. In your next conversation, you should go back and say, oh, Megan and I actually had a great conversation about that. And so I think it's really critical to customize. What I always tell my software engineering students is do a deep dive on the company mission, values, product. Have you used the product? Are you familiar with it? Download the app if you haven't, because you need to come across like you've done your homework extensively, because then you will be very impressive.
I love the asking questions part. Kind
Yes,
of turning the table. It's not really turning the table, but hey, I want to learn about you, your company, see if it's a fit for me as well. That's
exactly.
and then they're okay with that. Interview, people interviewing. They like that, huh?
And what I would say too is always have 3 to 5 questions prepared and have them prepared in the order of importance. Just because you might not have enough time to ask those questions. Also, sometimes your questions might get already answered throughout the conversation. And I would say I've been a hiring manager, from a hiring manager perspective, the questions that a candidate asks is really telling. It's really telling about what's important to them. It's also really telling in general about how they see things. Have they done their homework? Are they asking me a question that's blatantly on our website? That's a little bit of a red flag. So I think, the hiring manager or whoever is the interviewer is also interpreting those questions.
Well, you've given them enough tips, so we're going to stop with the tips. So reach out to Coach Megan, listeners, and I'm going to have her shout out because you just saw a little bit of what she does. There's much more, and I've had a long conversation about this. So I wanted to do that, and that was very good. That's a really good tip. And if they added you to that, the chance of getting the job has just gone up tremendously. So with that being said, how can people get a hold of you?
So the best way is probably my Upwork profile. So I can obviously share that link for the listeners here, and then also checking out my LinkedIn profile as well. But as far as direct communication, either Upwork or my email address, which is on all of that information.
Yeah, and I'll have it in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
And I'm going to do a favor for you, Megan.
Thank you.
I'm going to offer the first 5 people that reach out to Megan and mention the podcast, I'm going to send you a gift. So Megan will
Oh,
reach out to me. Yeah, I want people to reach out to you because careers are our whole life. If you start with the right career, I'm getting on the soapbox and I'll get off in a sec. I just feel if you get on the right career at 25, you're 61 like me today. Oh my God, it's going to be a completely different life than bouncing around. Correct?
yes.
There
And
you
I
go.
think, the career, to your point, is a huge component of your life. And so if that is one less item to stress about, whether it's finance or, if I feel like in today's world, the first question people always ask, what do you do? And there's pros and cons to that. I have a lot of thoughts on that question, but essentially, this really, and that also leads into another point about identity, right? A lot of people have their personal identity tied to their career and their job. And in my view, that's a huge component of who you are, but it's not the entire holistic view of you.
No, I like that. It's also reach out again. First 5, I'm going to send you a gift, nice little gift. I want to reward Megan for what she's doing. I want to jump. What I love about you, and I use this phrase all the time: the many hats you wear. Why do you do it, and what are those hats?
Yes. So I am in a unique position in my own career, which I think actually helps me be a better career coach. So right now I am employed with 5 companies, 6 if you count Upwork. And essentially what I do is I'm a career coach. I also develop master classes on content related to interview prep, how to stand out as candidates, how to use programs like I mentioned, JobScan, also another program, spoiler, but Hunter.io, how to find email addresses of hiring managers, so that type of thing. And so I really like this space because it's flexible. I constantly get an influx of students and clients. So I am never out there marketing myself. And it's just a really great experience because it's versatile. I'm part of different career coach groups with different companies. I've been able to, be published in some articles, on some podcasts, just a lot of different opportunities, which really helps me to also widen my career portfolio.
What's one tip you would give somebody that has many hats? They're juggling many hats. What's one tip that helps you?
You need to be extremely organized. Extremely, extremely, extremely organized. And I know that sounds kind of basic, but it goes a long way because it also leads to follow up, right? You need to make sure you're following up with clients or, being in very close communication with everyone, because that's how you show that you're reliable, dependent, and just on it.
No, I love the follow-up and organization. Yeah, you're right. It's simple, but it's so empowering for everybody. But I love the follow-up because a true servant, when you serve somebody, the other servant part of it is following up. You've given them value, but then follow back. How's it going? How
Yes.
can I help you even more? And then you can serve more as doing business with servers' hearts, the name of his podcast. It just explodes now. And that's what you do. And I love that because our students today need help.
Yeah.
It's a different world. I know I'm 61 and people, oh, you're old, and I am, but it's still a crazy world. And I think they need more Coach Megans out there than
Yeah.
not. So you know, it's interesting. Does it matter what school somebody goes to that you work with? Meaning is, somebody is at Stanford where I'm at, or somebody's at a JC. They all can, if they have a dream to be a software developer, education is important, but they can still go for their career, right?
Yes, I think something that is trending in today's world is no longer needing a bachelor's degree to get a job. You'll notice that on some job descriptions. Also in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of boot camps out there, right? There's a lot of sales tech boot camps, software engineering boot camps. So the world is moving a bit away from requiring a bachelor's degree to get a job. With that said, companies, of course, value that hands-on experience, right? But I think being able to show those other key elements of communication, which also goes back to the resume, right? Like the resume needs to be, as I mentioned, crystal clear. But I do think that if you have the skill set, another thing too is, companies hire for passion and potential. So if and also, do I like you? Do I want to work with you? And can you do the job? So if you're able to demonstrate that in an interview, it doesn't matter. I would also say that, yes, there's a lot of great schools out there. I went to school. I didn't go to Stanford. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't go to Columbia. I went to Chico State, University of the Pacific. Great schools, but not, this, oh, you went to Stanford, you went to Yale. So I do think that it's more about you, your expertise, and how you come across in an interview.
No, that's a great answer because you're right. There's colleges, Columbia and Stanford for some people, JCs are for others, and trades are for others. And that's where
Yeah.
you can get through that minutia. I always say that word because I love saying that minutia of where they want to be, where Joe Smith wants to be, and
Yes,
help them find the direction. You don't tell them, you just direct them as they
exactly.
give you information. Well, we're running out of time here, Coach Megan. I knew this was going to be a good show, and you far exceeded it, which is crazy. Love it. Please reach out to her again. I'm giving 5 gifts, so please remind her that you heard about her on this show. And I'd love to give gifts because I'd love people to be succeeding with Coach Megan. With that being said, thank you so much for being on the show. One more favor.
Yes.
Can you give my audience one last tip that's helped you through this crazy journey of life?
I think not being afraid to do something different. Kind of back to where your interests meet your strengths, that's your passion. And even within your own role, if you want to stay at that company, is there a way for you to do more of XYZ because you enjoy that more? Can you talk to your manager about that? Or if you've always thought in the back of your mind, I'd really actually love to do this, or maybe do something on the side, right? Maybe you're really passionate about something that won't be a full-time job, but maybe it can be a part-time job. And so I think just not being afraid to do what you love.